We're joined by the spokesperson of the Department of Environmental Affairs, Albi Modise. Good afternoon, Albi.
Good afternoon, Elvis.
Now, is the country making progress in terms of combating rhino poaching?
Look, we should be very worried that we're sitting at almost 700 rhino poached to date. But I think it would have been much worse had it not been of interventions at legislative level, at law enforcement level, and also the levels of communities where people working closely as NGOs, CBOs, and different organizations to fight the scourge. Of course, we are extremely worried about the numbers, but we think it could have been much worse had we not intervened.
What are the two major flashpoints for rhino poaching?
Look, the Kruger National Park continues to be the hardest hit in terms of rhino, primarily because of it's the biggest park in the country, but also it's almost as big as most states in Africa, in Europe. It's bigger than Gauteng as a province. But and if you really are looking to see a rhino, that's a park that you're more likely to see a rhino. So I think the Kruger National Park continues to be the flashpoint for us, and interventions by police and the defense force are geared towards ensuring that we deal with this problem, but also because of the transfrontier arrangement with Mozambique. The transfrontier arrangement has been abused and used as a loophole by those who would want to penetrate our country from outside of using the Mozambican border. So we're working closely with the Mozambican authorities to ensure that we find a way that would assist us to ensure that there's enforcement from the two countries in ensuring that the transfrontier conservation arrangement is not in any way undermined by the incursions we're observing.
Now, not only the neighboring countries is a problem, Asian countries is also a problem, but we believe that you're in discussion with Asian countries to help fight the scourge.
Asian countries are a big problem because we get told by those closer to the action that that's where most of the horns end up. And we don't have any reason to doubt that because there's been very empirical evidence that prove that most of the horns go to Asia. We've had discussions with Vietnam. Last year we signed an MOU with Vietnam. We have also signed an MOU with China. We are working closely with Laos to ensure that we arrive at an MOU. The MOUs are very important because they begin to put systems in place between South Africa and those particular countries to ensure that as and when an individual is being pursued by the law enforcement agencies, there is a system in the other country which are perceived to be potential consumer countries, that the law enforcement agencies in those countries are able to collaborate with our country's law enforcement agencies, but also at the level of information exchange as well, at the level of technology transfer as well, at the level of ensuring that there is enough in terms of legislation at home and in those countries to be able to ensure that we nip this problem in the bud as well.
Do we know why there's such an appetite for rhino horn in the Asian countries?
There's different stories being paraded. One story about alleged remarks by one minister saying the rhino horn can cure cancer. The other story is about, seen as a status symbol that you imagine middle class, they would want to acquire the rhino horn as part of the I've arrived type of, trademark. So there's different stories being paraded. We've been trying to understand, but trying to understand it as well means that we realize that there is a demand for the horn, which is why we've gone to cabinet to say to cabinet, maybe it would be in our interest to open the trade in the rhino horn, primarily because we would want to make sure that we identify potential partners in trade and find a way of making sure that we open trade in a very managed manner, not a free-for-all type of situation, but a situation where once we go to CITES, in 2016, which will be held in South Africa, we say to them, Cabinet has approved that we could open trade, and we arrive at the modalities and the mechanisms of making sure that we have a very organized, clean, well-managed trade arrangement.
How confident are you that this proposal will fly at CITES?
Look, we think that we've done everything right within our might to make sure that we put systems in place. At the law enforcement, we've got soldiers, we've got police. Prioritization of crime in Rhino is being treated urgently. The defense force is there. Minister of Defense and Minister Molewa were part of the meeting with the Mozambicans. At the level of legislation, we've since amended our legislation, the Biodiversity Act, to ensure that we put strong systems to ensure that as and when hunting happens, you don't have any pseudo-hunters taking advantage of that. So we need to put a new level so that you fight war at different fronts. It's a multi-pronged approach. So the issue about opening trade for us is not so much of a panacea to the problem, but it's more of one of additional measures we need to put in place to clamp down on the rhino poaching.
700 rhinos has been killed. It is a dire situation.
It is a dire situation. We're extremely worried. We should, as humanity, hang our heads in shame that all of these are done by people that we believe that are part of the human race, but we should also be saying to ourselves, what can we do as individuals to make sure we fight the scourge? And I think the march yesterday by the learners, the minister, the NGOs and everyone was a sign of solidarity to say we work together with government, we work together with NGOs, work together with CBOs, work together with all of the different entities to ensure that we remain one of the home of the biggest range of rhino, because South Africa has got the biggest population of rhino, more than any other country in the world. So inevitably, you can imagine if anyone is looking to find a rhino horn, this is the country where you're likely to find one. So we as South Africa must work hard to make sure that we stop that situation.
Albi, thank you so much for your time and joining us in studio.
Thank you.
That was Albi Modise, the spokesperson for the Department of Environmental Affairs.